Once the director approves the roughs, the designer is ready to then move on to the completed rendering. It's at this stage that color is added. The roughs really kind of focus on the silhouette of the costume, the line of the costume. So then we're ready to add texture and color later, which is what the rendering phase is for. So I'm going to quickly scan here to show kind of the overall rendering. The designer usually works to try to make sure the color palette all works well together, even though individual characters will have particular color choices. They still need to look cohesive as a whole. We are going to focus on these two costumes in particular. The yellow dress is there, and then the green kind of plant dresses. And so Becky, the designer, is going to tell us a little bit about these.
Okay. Okay, so as I was just saying, when the girls get handed a lot of money and disappear and come back, they choose to come back in these matching dresses that look kind of like the Supremes, their own version of the Supremes. They also have matching, bleach blonde bouffant hairdos to go along with it. And so these costumes actually were a combination of purchased and built. The dress itself, just this base dress, we purchased these dresses because of part of the design process was figuring out the budgeting and also the labor force that we have in the shop. Both of those were factors. And looking at the labor force and the budget, I opted to purchase these dresses as is, and then we bought extra fabric. This is actually the dress fabric, but this extra fabric, we bought yardage of that and individualized each one of the dresses a little bit with accent pieces so that they all go together, but they're all slightly different. Each one has their own personality. And those girls stay consistently like that during the show. They have costumes that match closely but are not completely identical. They're sort of a set. They each have their own personality, show a little bit, but they in this case their base costume is the same. One has a little jacket, one has a bow, one has this sort of draped wrap around the outside of it. So that's what happened with those. These are the collars of the jackets. This isn't the finale, and at the end of the show, pretty much the entire cast becomes part of the plant or gets eaten by the plant, and kind of becomes one with the plant. And so these girls are kind of leading the pack that way. I originally wanted to go with that sort of poofy balloon skirt because I always thought it looked kind of like a plant, like a flower or like a plant. So I had thought of that from a long way back of wanting to do it that way. And like I said, the director had seen a version of these jackets with these big collars that looked so much like a Venus flytrap, and so I'm like, okay, we can do that, and kind of combined all of it together. The challenge for this, which I think when you see the finished costume, at this point I think is successful, is really the challenge was taking a costume that is red and green and making it not look like a Christmas ornament, and that's really hard to do. Yeah. So that was something we really had to work on. The wigs are green. Talking to the wig designer early in the process that we could make green wigs.
So those aren't hats?
No, they're wigs. They're wigs. So we will look at those too in a minute. Okay. These costumes were completely built from scratch. Because there's no way you're going to find them anywhere. And were built, and then the jacket, it was built out of lace and also has hand painting and things like that on it. So, and even after, just so you know, after the design process had happened, we had gone back again and done a reevaluation of it and decided that, in fact, we switched their legs out. We're going to put red fishnet tights on them and red shoes. So we did change that even after the rendering was done. Sometimes things happen as part of the rehearsal process. And since the rendering got done very early on, things happen, and we decided that we would go that route with them instead of the green shoes. So, things happen.